Okay, we're back. Hi everybody for another video, and this one's going to be about the cell. That's our last unit for first semester in this biology class. But in other biology classes that we watch this video, we may be doing this at a different time in the school year. But in either case, it's going to be a short, quick one. I'm going to take you through the slides that you hopefully have, and I will give you some terms and some parts, and then tell you what we're going to be doing in class. So let me start this up here. All right, and first of all, I hope you all know this, but a eukaryotic organism, or a eukaryote, is one that has a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells are cells that do not have a nucleus, and we're going to be talking about that in class, but you need at least know those definitions for now. The first part that you're going to need to know about is called the nucleus of the cell, and the nucleus is this big purple thing in this picture. It's actually in the middle of the cell, and it's separated by the rest of all the cell parts by having its own membrane. And inside the nucleus are the DNA and your chromosomes that make up your chromosomes that kind of are your blueprint, your instructions for what will make you you. So the nucleus is considered to be the control area because it contains the DNA that dictates what will happen in the rest of the cell and what you're going to look like and all sorts of interesting hereditary information. Inside of the nucleus is this structure right here. It's called the nucleolus. It is pretty prominent inside the nucleus, and its job is to make ribosomes, and we'll talk about those in a minute. Mainly in plant cells, but sometimes it's smaller in animal cells, but in plant cells specifically we have something called a vacuole, and it's an area, it's right here, and it's a large, almost bubble-looking, empty area that's filled with water, waste, sugar, sometimes salts, and you find them a lot in plant cells because plants need to store those kinds of things. They need the water, and they need to store their own sugars and substances such as that. So we call that the vacuole, kind of like the storage area for a plant cell. Plant cells also have a cell wall. We do not. Animal cells do not have cell walls. And cell walls are for kind of letting the plant be straight and rigid, because plants don't have bones to hold themselves up. So the cell wall is almost like a brick layering around the cell that kind of helps it stay sturdy and supportive. We also have something called the plasma or cell membrane, and it's the outside of the cell. And there are proteins in the membrane, as you can see here, that kind of look like bone pictures or something. And these are proteins that help bring things across into the cell and out of the cell. And we'll talk about those in a different section as well. Then there's these structures here. These are called centrioles, and they're sometimes drawn like almost like little stars or licorice sticks. And there's a lot of fibers that make them up, but their main job is to help cells divide when it's time for cells to go under cell division and make new cells. Then there's this structure here that's called the lysosome, and it is made by another structure in the cell called the Golgi body, which we'll talk about in a second, but its main job is to produce enzymes or chemicals that help digest or break down things in the cell, whether it's things that the cell needs or whether it's waste products the cell wants to get rid of. The lysosome is kind of the cleanup sack or cleanup crew of the cell, and again, it has a lot of enzymes to break things up like your stomach, so we call them digestive enzymes. Plants have a chloroplast, as I hope you know, that helps the plant make food during photosynthesis, and we've talked about the stacks and of structures that are inside of there that help with the different parts of photosynthesis. Chloroplast, only in plants. Then we have structures that are called ribosomes. I mentioned those a second ago, and the nucleolus makes them, and they're actually the site where proteins are actually assembled. The endoplasmic reticulum is another structure in the cell. Its job is to kind of act like a road system to travel through, and there's two kinds. There's rough ER, which is the kind that has ribosomes attached to it, so it's also making proteins. And then there's something called smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which lacks ribosomes. So the ribosome, the ER is The ER is a transport system for the cell if something needs to travel in the cell from one part to another. And if it has ribosomes, we call it rough, and if it lacks the ribosomes, we call it smooth. Again, the transportation system, kind of like the subway system. Sorry about that mistake on the second last slide there when we went forward, but this is the Golgi body. As I mentioned, it's making the lysosomes, which are the digestive structures in the cell. Golgi body's other job is kind of like a packaging structure. It helps take the things that the cell might be making and packages them up and gets them ready to be shipped to different parts of the cell or different parts of even of the other cells. So I sometimes think of it like the mail delivery thing, or maybe like UPS, that's packaging up the material made by a cell and helping to get it kind of gift wrapped and kind of fancy. We've talked about our cell respiration a little bit and how that helps make energy for your cells, and as I've said, the mitochondria is the place for that, so we sometimes call it the powerhouse. And again, it's providing the cell with ATP. This is where the electron transport chain and the Krebs cycle both happen. It's very folded, and that helps increase the surface area of how much space is actually available to make the energy. So the more folded it is, the more actual surface area. As weird as that sounds, like this curvy structure here, the way this gets folded in and out actually provides more room for ATP to be made. And that's hopefully it, and we'll see if this worked. Have a good day, guys.